Just jumping in here quickly to let you guys know that I have recently created a Facebook group for listeners of the Live, Train, Perform podcast. So this private forum is the place to connect with other podcast listeners and guests, as well as to interact with myself and other coaches who have provided content for the Coach's Corner episodes. So in this forum, you can ask questions, which I can then answer in the group, or I can use them for episodes for my Q&A sessions, post relevant articles, you can share memes. The goal is to create a network of like-minded people so that everyone can interact with each other. You guys, the listeners, the audience members, can interact with a network of professionals in the fitness industry that have provided good quality content for the podcast. To gain access to this private group, all you need to do is leave me a rating and review. What this does is allows me to bump up the ratings, draw bigger names, bigger guests to the podcast for your listening pleasure. Once you've left a rating and review, take a screenshot of that, send that through to my Instagram at coach_Kobes, Kobes. Once you've done that, go onto Facebook, type in Live, Train, Perform. That group will come up, request access, answer the 3 questions, and I will grant you access. I am in the process of building out my online business. One of the income streams is going to be from the Facebook forum. So I'm going to be allowing 50 people into that forum for free. After that, it will be paid access only. So get in early, be one of the OGs. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Live, Train, Perform podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kober, and joining me again is Lizzie Wright from Singapore. Lizzie, how you doing?
Hi, Sean. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Pleasure. I always love chatting to you. It's always good conversations. We were just chatting offline about what you're up to. Why don't you fill in the audience about what you're doing with your life? You've got a lot on your plate at the moment.
Yeah, I do. So for those who haven't tuned in before, I've been living in Singapore for the last 8 years and traveling around the globe, enjoying Asia and everything it's all about. The last couple of years have been quite hard in terms of staying grounded on the little island, the little dot of Singapore. And things have started to change, and I've started taking and making some decisions that are going to help drive me forwards into more of a future that I want to see for myself. So those changes are, I'm taking the leap from personal training one-on-one and going fully online, and currently in that process now, which is going amazing at the moment. I just said to Sean, like it's been crazy cool just seeing kind of the last 6 years of coaching actually coming together now with the decision that I've made to leave the life that I've known in Singapore for 8 years and the identity I've created and everything I know. And I'm going to jump ship. And I'm getting to the height of everything where I'm at. And I think some people will be mad that I'm kind of jumping at where I'm doing great and I could still be doing great.
Well, you're in a really good place.
Yeah, where I'm in a really good place. But I think that's almost the time to take and make that shift, because I'm feeling great and education's there, business and everything is building. And for me right now, number one priority is going home and seeing my family. Like I'll be going in December and I haven't seen them for 2.5 years. So for me, it's a priority. It started to move. I made some big shifts because I always stayed in Singapore because it's amazing weather and the tropics and everything like that, and low tax, and I get paid well. So it's lots of wins.
You make pretty good money as a coach there, right?
I make very good money and I absolutely love it, and I love everything about it and what I do. But I actually just had a real mindset shift in the sense of to stop following. I had to really go through deep into my heart and go, what is it you actually want? Like, are you wanting like the cash and that kind of part of your lifestyle, or do you want to see people you want to be like that you love and everything like? And for me, I was like, money comes and goes. Money will always be there and it will always come and go. And for me, I took that kind of pressure off myself and my foot off the gas, thinking it's not about the money. I don't spend a lot of money anyway. Like, I live a very simple kind of life and that suits me perfectly. So then in my head, I was just like, well, yeah, there's no way I'm leaving this for 3 years that I won't see them. And that was the big decision I made, because I've made some big decisions over the last several years, but I think it really it held me close here because I was like, I don't want to leave. Like, I'm getting the money in. But then when I made
because
that shift,
you'd essentially built the life that you wanted, right? And then, you know, you had these thoughts coming into your mind about, oh, I miss my family and how long is this going to go on for, et cetera, et cetera. Let's discuss that because, you know, sometimes it's small things that creep into your mind and that seed gets planted and then that grows over long periods of time. And other times it's like a pin drop, right? Like what sort of mindset shift did you go through to come to that realization that, you know, money does come and go and your number one value and priority right now is spending time with loved ones because maybe the last year and a half or so, you know, those relationships have become more important to you, or, you know, you've realized that those relationships should be higher on your list of priorities.
Yeah, and I think obviously that's come definitely with age as I've gotten that bit older, and I definitely think the last year and a half has been a big shift in that. And it's not about, for me, like being strong enough and kind of holding strong and waiting it out. Like, it was a point of, I need to do something and I need to take control of my life, because at the moment the government is dictating exactly what I'm doing. And I feel like for an expat, for me in Singapore, I feel like I'm being watched in every move I'm making. I could get I could get fined thousands, like $10,000 if I did something not right. I can get shipped out of the country, and I just don't feel the same connection to Singapore as I had done from the beginning. So I think for me, there's like, it's multidimensional. There's like a lot of things kind of coming into play, but it just came down to, I had it in my head and priorities just shifted, and it was literally as simple as that. And I stopped thinking about the money. And as soon as I removed the money off the table, I was like, if I could do anything tomorrow and I had no issue to think about money, it would be go home and go see my mum, go see my sister, go be with my best friends. And whether that's something
What made you stop thinking about the money, though?
That...
Was it like you had enough in your bank to...
I have enough in the bank.
You set a target for yourself? You set a target for yourself, you hit that target, and then your mind shift changing, like, all right, well, I'm there now. What else do I want to do? Like, I've achieved that. What's my number one priority now? Yeah,
so I'm comfortable enough to not... I don't need to work for several months to know that I don't need to dip into those savings, and I'm good. Like, and I think I removed the fear. I had a long list. I've got a long list. I wrote it all down because I wanted to capture like those moments that I had of all the fears and all the reasons why I wasn't going to book that flight and go home. And there were several things that were holding me back, in terms of, one was a loss of identity and feeling that I was going to be forgotten. And that was the whole thing I made. And like, you know, with my background, and I made several changes over my career and flipped it from corporate to coaching, which is now my absolute dream and my passion. And I think because that whole identity has been built here, I found it in my head. I was like, oh my God, but no one knows me in London, or no one knows me here. But in truth, people know me from around the world because I've traveled from around the world. So all I need is that one person from each country to make a connection. And I'm like, I do that anyway, you know? So
yeah. And the world that we live in, you can shift online, which is exactly what you're doing with your business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's powerful, because it's allowed me to adapt and grow. And it's the moment I removed all of those fears, I just said, like, what's the worst that can happen? And for me, I'm in a fortunate position. I could go home and stay at my parents, and I don't mind. At 31, I literally do. I don't care if that's for me. There's so much other stuff going on in the world. So I fully appreciate my circumstances, that I can go home. I can go spend some quality time with my family and not have to worry about when the next paycheck's coming in. So it's as long as I got comfortable with the fact that I wasn't scared about when I had to get the next paycheck. And I think that's huge, because we do rely on that sometimes, you know. But it's like, I made that safety net for myself, and it's time to take advantage of the safety net, because if I don't take the chance now, when will I ever? I've got no real commitments in terms of relationship, children, or anything like that. So for me, it's like, what are you doing? Like, go see the world where you can, where it's all opening up. Because for now, I can't run around Singapore anymore or do anything else. Like, that's it. you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you feel like you've reached your ceiling there?
I've reached my ceiling. Like, I'll always be open-minded, like, if I came back. But for now, I'm so much more excited about what else is coming. And I have no idea what that is. And that excites the hell out of me. You know, like, I'm just like, whatever.
That's awesome because I just want to pause on that for a second. Sorry to interrupt there. I think that's really awesome because, you know, so many people, when they go through these massive changes, they either look at it as an opportunity or an obligation. And an opportunity excites you. Even though you're going into the exact same situation, the unknown, one person is like, I'm really fucking excited about this. Like, this is a chance for me to grow. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to go and, you know, recreate my identity. Whereas the other person is looking at fear and they're like, I don't want to step out of this this comfort zone. I don't want to step into the unknown and I don't want to lose my identity. Now, you mentioned earlier that you wrote some things down. I've just jotted down, like, how important was it for you to actually write those things down, go through that process of looking at the pros and the cons and overcoming those potential obstacles prior to them actually happening and getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper? How important was that process for you?
Oh my God, it was massive. Like, I think I actually wrote 15. I want to put a post about write every single one down because they consumed me. They consumed me to a point, but I knew I was going to make the shift and do it. It was just a matter of time when I was going to do it. So I know myself in that sense. Like, if I'm going to if I say I'm going to do something, I will 99.9% of the time do it. So I knew it was going to happen. That was just that process that I went through. And I think writing it down actually brings a reality of they're not actually that bad. And I've been doing a lot of work lately on what fear actually is and how we look at it in terms of, like, obviously you got fight or flight mode, fight, flight, freeze, but you also have, I had a talk today with my mindset coach and we're talking about fear and danger. So for anyone who hasn't, like, a novice into kind of explaining what fear is the survival of yourself. So, like, your ego coming into the equation of, like, they're just trying to protect you. So it doesn't know the difference between a tiger chasing you now and back in the day to you getting your tax report or you losing your job. But we create all these fears based on society, based on what we've been told, based on you can't survive this, you can't do this, and all of those things, whereas actual danger is you're being hunted down or it's a matter of survival, you're going to fall off the cliff, you know? So if you can identify those differences in there, and for me, that's why I said, what's the worst that could happen to me?
One is real, one is perceived.
Exactly.
Yeah. We live in this world where we have this perceived fear all the time, and the fucking media perpetuates this bullshit. So, you know, so many people are tuned into the news and the radio and they're listening to this shit that's happening all over the world. And like, that's clickbait, right? Like, we are literally attuned to danger. We are on the lookout for danger because we evolved to preserve our own lives, right? So if we perceive a danger, that's what's going to draw our attention. I think that's really important to understand. And it's interesting that you're talking about this right now because I recently recorded an episode with Scotty Robinson, who is the brain guy on Instagram. He's got like 97,000 followers on Instagram or some shit in the last like year or year and a half. I did a mastermind retreat with him in Thailand a couple of years ago.
Amazing.
And the dude is an absolute fucking wealth of knowledge and just absolutely blew my mind with the content that he puts out and makes complex things really simple. But I had a really good conversation with him about this topic of how the brain works. And I'm going to do like a 3-part series with him. But the first episode was all about how the brain works and these different connections and, you know, how we perceive fear. And I actually follow that up with an episode on creating psychological safety. And it sounds like, and that's why I asked about writing things down for you, because, you know, we need to, you know, shit's going to happen in our life where we are going to be stepping into the unknown. We are not going to know what's going on, and we can create this fear and anxiety of, you know, not knowing. But when we can create like a psychological safety net by mitigating the risks ahead of time, by thinking things through, by writing things down, by going through pros and cons and being like, all right, well, I am going to be stepping into the unknown, but I've created this psychological safety net around it. I know shit's going to happen. If this happens, then this is how I'm going to deal with it. And you're creating these like standard operating procedures that then allow you to step out of your comfort zone. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's the number one thing I feel is that obviously everyone handles it all in different ways. So it's really looking, I'd say, like as a suggestion for other people, is like really looking in and homing in onto who you are and how you've responded in the past to everything to help you build steps on the future. Like for me, the writing thing, I always think it will help everyone, but obviously everyone's very different and some people might be a bit more reluctant because they've never tried it before. But I always say, like, for me over the last few years, I've really delved into kind of the meditation side of things, to the journaling. And for me, they've been game changers. And writing things down, it removes it from all the noise in your head and everything that you're basically built to survive, or your ego is telling you to protect you. No, you can't do this because this is what we know and this is what's safe and we don't need to go anything like further past there. But actually, when we write it down, it becomes a reality of, oh, it's not actually that bad. Like if I look at it this way, because you can see it, right? I think the feelings and emotions can take over on a number of levels.
It's a very simple way of organizing your thoughts and then being able to prioritize those thoughts and go, well, and again, you're mitigating risks, right? Like we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day or something like that. And when they're all in your mind, it's like a spider's web. Like you think X and then you've got all of these, webs going off from that one thought, and you've got all these different scenarios that could unfold, right? And then when you actually start writing things down, you're like, all right, well, that A, B, C, D, those scenarios are very, very highly unlikely going to happen. So I probably don't really need to worry about that too much. All right, these two scenarios, this has got a high likelihood of occurring. So if this does happen, how can I deal with it? All right, what about this one? What about this one? And again, you're creating that psychological safety net. I think that's brilliant advice. Talk to me about, you said you're working with a mindset coach.
So I've recently, obviously with my transition, I don't want to do it alone. So for me, I always number one believe as a coach, I need a coach or several set of coaches to help me get to where I want to be. And those who obviously have that experience. So I hired a company that can help me with all the business elements and marketing elements and build my business. But part of that, we get there's a couple of guys, but one I speak to every week. So I get an hour and a half with him. And it's honestly been such a game changer. So he specialized in like childhood traumas. So really diving back into our childhood and to where we are now today from our current environments and how we operate and how we handle things. And fear was just a big, like I get to talk to him every week about whatever I feel like talking about. Sometimes there's the big things that come up and other things that don't. But for me, it's been huge. Like I've never had a therapist or someone to connect with in such a sense. But for me, it's so humbling and grounding, because some days I go, I just want to talk about what happened today, and I want to kind of understand why it happened and why I've gotten triggered from this. And we kind of like dive into all of that headspace, because for me as a coach, like not only, yes, I do obviously the physical training with all my clients, but for me, it's so much more than that. The mind is the most powerful tool. And as soon as I can understand the person I'm working with or get to know them that next level, I understand where the fears come from, how we can move past like the space of resistance, where the fears come into play, or like the feels of I should be able to do this, but I've never done it before in my life. So it's kind of like I use him as a tool to make my mind stronger for myself, but for making my mind stronger for my clients. And it's always just going to be a win-win. And he's incredible. And we've been doing a lot of learning around the ego. The ego always comes up, which I find absolutely fascinating. So that's where we spend our conversations and talking about fear and talking about kind of, today we're talking about like the alpha male and like the aggression and different presentations of what it is to be a leader and where that all stems from. So for me, like, yeah, mindset coach is, I get him for another 2.5 months, and that's been huge. You know, like, it's just another way to get to know yourself even more, and you're talking to someone who's professional about it.
Yeah. And that was the point that I was going to make and that I was going to ask you about, you know, is having a mentor, having a coach. You as a coach, I as a coach, we understand how important it is to have people that, you know, are professionals in the field that can cut through the bullshit and guide us on that journey. Like, you could literally go onto YouTube and do all this research for yourself, and you could listen to different podcasts and read all these books, and, you know, you've got so much free information here. But the brilliance of having a fucking coach is they cut through that bullshit, they remove what's unnecessary, and they give you the tools that is going to work for you, and they're going to suit you for your individual needs. How long have you been working with this person for?
I've literally, I reckon 6 or 7 weeks now, maybe.
Okay, and why did you decide to go on this journey?
I think for me, it's super important to, like I said, it's for that next level of self to get to know me. Like, I would say I'm very headstrong and I really know myself on so many levels. But for me, it's having, the best way to describe it is I have tools, I have words to label a lot of things, like emotions, feelings. It puts me in a stronger point or position. So when things arise, some things that you
of understanding.
So even when I was like we always bounce back to my 25-year-old self that was a little bit off the rails, loved to have a party, and all of these elements. But this self or this ego she always pops back into my 31-year-old self, for example. And that self, sometimes she sometimes comes in and goes, you're not worthy, like, you need to validate yourself through this still and this. But the maturity and the level I've come to in the last 1.5 years, before I met Matt, but Matt's like now kind of just taken it to a whole other level, is I now understand, like, when things arise, you know? So different areas that I didn't have the words to describe how I was feeling. And I think it comes with time and experience as well. So at 25, I just had my head on my shoulders, but I would have been like, what? Okay, no, don't kind of get it. So I think I have to go through those experiences. And then when I can talk about it, I can label it. And things that used to trigger me when I was younger, or a bravado, or I'd try and, like, to get someone's attention or whatever, now I can see I literally just don't care. Like, I just won't, I wouldn't even ponder to, like, get to someone else who wanted to get attention, you know? I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
This, whatever.
So before you were being reactive.
Yeah.
And, like, I had this conversation, I had a conversation with Luke Lehman. I had him on recently as well. I just finished editing his second episode.
Nice.
I love talking to that dude, by the way. He's a fucking legend.
Let's talk about him today.
Yeah, so I was chatting with Luke, and we had this conversation about, you know, his courses and things like that. And he's like, man, I'm presenting this information to people because I wish this was the information that I had when I started out in the industry 20 years ago. So, you know, getting that mentor, getting that coach, they can give you those tools, but they can also lay the path out in front of you. They can tell you what to expect ahead of time. They can identify these triggers, and, you know, you look back and you like, oh, okay, I can see that trigger then. Once that trigger occurred, then this was the effect from that.
Yeah.
And once you identify that, then you can look ahead and go, well, I know what that trigger is, so I'm going to not put myself in that situation to have to deal with that trigger. But if I do come across it, if it does occur, then I've got some tools to be able to deal with it. I'm in a different frame of mind to be able to maybe make better decisions or different choices around the actions and behaviors that you're going to put into place to deal with that situation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's like the real discovery that you can have within yourself, but it's knowing and being in that position to invest and then to also see the value, right? So us as coaches, we know the value we give to our clients and what we deliver. But to someone who's completely new and like, oh, do I need to invest in a coach? Or I could still find these things on YouTube and whatever. But I think the essential part, like with the coaching element, is obviously you can get all these videos and all this information around, but the fact is it's a cohesive kind of element. Like you said, it's a roadmap to help you get to where you need to be, or if there isn't that roadmap, you're going to create your own, and they're going to help create it with you, because they can help find what you need to prioritize and help put you into those focuses right now. So someone might come in for, not for you necessarily, because you would work with fighters, but for me, it might be fat loss, right? But really, the biggest part that kind of comes into it is building someone's confidence, like finding what it is about that fat loss journey. Why is it so important to you to get there? And we get down to the actual nitty gritty of it, and then we can help go from there. Like it's actually just creating those paths and having those conversations.
That's a great point. And the mindset stuff that you're talking about ties in with, my NLP courses,
yes.
my practitioner course, my master practitioner course. I did those courses because when I first started working as a coach, I was getting people coming in and, I'd go through a training program, guide them on nutrition, et cetera, and, I'd get 90% of people weren't achieving those results.
Yeah.
10% were. And like those 10%, they could just grind. They could be disciplined. They could follow the plan to a T. But then the other 90%, I'm like, why are they not getting results? Like I need to figure out a way to get through to them because what I'm doing is not working. So that's when I went down that path of, NLP. And that was all about psychological change, behavioral change. And a lot of the times you'd have these conversations with people that are overweight. And as you said, you start asking these questions about why do you want to lose this weight? Oh, well, I just want to look better. I want to feel better. Why? 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 You ask why 5 times, and then all of a sudden you get down to, oh, well, when I was a child, I was, neglected. My father was working all the time. My mother had 3 other kids to look after. I didn't have many friends, blah, 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 blah. And then like you suddenly find that, there's this poor relationship with food that's been created from being neglected as a child that's then snowballed over the years, and that psychological component needs to be dealt with prior to that person losing weight, because it's not just, you can't just give that person, all right, well, eat less, move more, calories in, calories out, let's fucking go. You've got to deal with that psychological element and those habits that have been formed over so many years. And again, tying back into the brain stuff, like it's a program that's been built over the years. Your brain is hardware, right? Like that's all the neurons, synapses, blah, 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 neurotransmitters, right? But then you've got this software that's been created over the years. And the more you run that software, the more that software becomes ingrained. So you need to actually start, addressing how you speak to yourself, the words that you use, your mindset, so that you can start changing those behaviors and get to the actual root cause of things and start changing those programs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they say, something I was saying this week, it was, you can't make changes or achieve your goals on your previous systems and your previous kind of beliefs. Like we have to change those along that time. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of people talking now, obviously calories in, calories out. And yes, if only it was that simple, it can be that simple. But when you've got the psychology in it, if it's not just like the body, and we're not just dealing with that, you're dealing with human behaviors that have been taught from childhood traumas, or how you've been nurtured in an environment, or how you've been neglected. And I think it's really significant because a lot of people, it's becoming, and it's being spoken about a lot more, but I think when there are those elements of being marketed around calories in versus calorie out, it can be quite damaging, because then people go, well, why am I not achieving anything? Because I've reduced all my calories down and they've almost done it too much, So it's like, it's the health element. And
again, you make a great point. Reducing your calories too much, that's an evolutionary response, right? So you're literally trying to fight against your biology. So we need to figure out ways and tools that are going to, everything works together. And as coaches, we have all of these different tools, and we need to pick and choose the right tools that are going to work together, go together to get our clients the results that they want. We don't just fucking use a hammer and go calories in, calories out. Everyone needs to stick to that. Is there an element of truth to that? If people want to lose weight, build muscle, blah, 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 absolutely, right? But that's not the only fucking thing that we need to consider. This is what I, don't like about human behavior is, it happens with medicine as well. It happens in the fitness industry. It happens in all industries. We take one piece of evidence and we look at that and we go, okay, calories in, calories out, that's all that matters when it comes to losing weight. No, there's so many other aspects that we need to look at. It's just like the system, right? Like the organism, we have 11 systems within the organism. And if one of those systems, digestive system's not working correctly because we're been dieting too hard for too long, we're not getting in enough micronutrients, our macronutrient ratios are way out of whack. We're having way too many carbohydrates, which is creating, insulin or blood sugar spikes and insulin releases. Now we become insulin resistant, blah, 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 blah. Like those digestive issues will then flow on to, the reproductive system, will flow on to the nervous system, will flow on to the muscular system, the skeletal system, the endocrine system, blah, 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 blah. Like everything works together. And once people start realizing that, they will find out, they will figure out for themselves, like no one size fits all. It's funny, yesterday, there was I was on a Facebook page in Phuket, and someone was asking a question about, all these drugs, saying, I want to lose this body fat, who's experienced or who's used these supplements, and just listed off a heap of supplements. And there was heaps, 30 comments underneath it. And I got in there and commented, and I was like, instead of asking a heap of random people on a forum, like what supplements you should be taking, why don't you hire an expert who's going to cut through the bullshit, dispel the myths, and, talk to you about your lifestyle, your sleep, your nutrition, your training, your hormones, your, energy levels, your mood, your attitude, talk about the psychological components, et cetera, and take you on a fucking journey. And so many people are like.
Yeah. But it's true, though. It's true. And I think it's definitely something I've matured within my coaching journey, because I think at some points when you're starting out and everything, you're trying to obviously get the results. And like you said, I had moments when I just wasn't getting results. I was like, why can't, it's simple. Come on, guys, we can do it. But I think the more it just bring to mind, when you see obviously the quick fixes or the diets or everything that people are getting others or marketing to others, that you can have these quick transformations and you can do that. Maybe you will drop a ton of weight in 6 weeks if you stick to X, Y, Z, but are you going to come back and are you going to put more weight on because of that? And that's a big tendency. You tend to put on more weight after you've done all these quick fix diets. And for me, it's it looks sexy and everyone loves it. And they love this kind of quick transformation, sweet, I can get that ready for summer, I can get that ready for the new year or whatever it is. But for me, and definitely with my coaching, as I've matured in my coaching, it's a lifestyle, and the bare minimum as a client stay with me is at least a year, because I cut through that bullshit. And I'm like, if you really want to be taken on a journey and make this something that you're going to stay with long term, it's not going to take us 3 months, because by the time I actually get you recording your food properly, it's going to be another month or 6 weeks by the time I've got you there, and you actually are comfortable and you understand it. And I think that's definitely one of my coaching that I've just launched with my online. It's a 4 month, and the idea is to renew, but it's an educational overhaul. So I put an educational course within it. So every week there's either nutrition, training, hormones, menstrual cycle or whatever it is, and then repeat again. And I get the knowledge even more on the second month. So for me, it's so important is, let's get all the information that you've ever had, let's bring it all here, and let's now you can see how it all works together, because you're going to live it and you're going to do it. Otherwise you get lost. Because for me, it's, yes, I can give you a program, yes, I can give you your macros, but you're not learning anything. And I had a call with a lady yesterday who is joining me, and she said something right as well. It was just she saw a friend who went through Slimming World or Weight Watchers, and she lost 9, I don't know how much she lost. She lost a lot of weight. But then COVID hit, and that all stopped, and she put all the weight on and more. And this lady's still now coming back, that it's open, coming back to him, because that's what she knew. But then what I'm trying to think of is that's what worked before. But what worked in those 18 months that you weren't with them? Yes. And for me, it's yes, you can go and lose all that weight, but you show me, yes, you're committed and you can do it there and then, but you're not making it a way of life. And I think that's the integral part for me. And that's what I'm so passionate about in delivering that message is, you can't just go for the quick stuff. for me, and I guess for you as well, Sean, like it's been a way of life my whole life. Like I've not known anything different. So for me, it's knowing that I haven't ever heavily like dieted in my life. So I know it's possible. You know, like I know you can have this sustainable lifestyle. Like I had Cocoa Pops for breakfast today because I felt like it. You know, like
But that's the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. And I want to teach people you can have those things. It's just obviously you've got to understand the tools and why you're having it, where you're having it, and it's not going to lead your life because it's a bad decision or it's bad food or whatever. Yeah.
Now, you spoke about challenges. I've got mixed feelings about challenges, like 6-week challenges. I definitely don't, like I've never sold any 6-week challenges. My online coaching is like 3-month blocks. And the majority of the time, as you said, like that first 3-month block is all about education. Now, the things that I'm educating my clients on are completely different for every individual, depending on where they're at on their journey and what their current knowledge is and, you know, their recent experience, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, every coaching call is completely different. Some people I'm, you know, literally just talking about habits. I'm talking about goal setting. I'm talking about, you know, creating consistency within their day. I'm talking about their mindset. I'm talking about their triggers, things that trigger them. Hey, when you do this, what happens? Oh, well, when I do X, Y, Z, then I feel I don't train, then I don't eat well, then my energy levels are low, and then it has this flow-on effect, right? So it's every single person's different. And then some people, like, I'm just talking about training program. I'm talking about the training program, and then I'm going, all right, when you do this exercise, where do you feel it? I feel it here. All right, well, let's make some slight adjustments to that. So every single person's different. But I think the education component is so extremely important, and that is what's missing when it comes to these challenges. Now, taking someone through a 6-week challenge, for example, let's drop your body fat percentage, or let's improve body composition, let's improve strength, whatever. Like, is there some benefit? I'm starting to change my mind around this. I used to be like, oh, that's fucking retarded. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're not going to learn anything. But I'm starting to change my mindset around this of, you know, if you can create an environment where you get people motivated to do something and show some commitment and show some dedication and discipline for a relatively short period of time, but then educate them along that journey and say, because, you know, again, like it's easy to be disciplined and restrictive and dialed in when it's for a short period of time. But then if you haven't learned anything in that process, then you're not going to implement those tools and those same habits that you have been utilizing, that you have been disciplined with once that challenge is finished. And you always see the start of the challenge photo and the end of the challenge photo. You don't see the photo 3 months later, 6 months later of that person. Or if you do see that photo, it's when they're doing another fucking challenge 6 months later.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point. You know, as you said, people don't learn that stuff. So when they put all that weight back on, they haven't built those habits. They haven't built that consistency into their life. They haven't made it a lifestyle. When they do put that weight back on 6 months down the track, a year down the track, a year and a half down the track, they go, what happened? How did I get here? All right, well, I know what I did last time, and I know that worked. I know that got me the results short term. So they go back to that thing again. They're in this perpetual cycle, right? Whereas our goal as coaches is to teach people, hey, let's take this longer journey where we're implementing, you know, smaller habits and challenges. We're still challenging them, but maybe we're challenging them on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Okay, but this challenge is not 6 weeks. Now this challenge is like a year and a half, 2 years, right? How can we get this person from A to Z in the most efficient and effective way possible? You know, sometimes we're going to sprint when they're motivated. Yeah, cool. All right. I'm going to set a challenge for you within this next year. Okay, at this period, once we hit this body fat percentage, once we get to this many calories, then we're going to go for a sprint for a month where we're going to really, you know, we're going to go through a reverse diet for 3 months. And then we're going to go for a sprint for a month, right? Here's your challenge. 4 weeks, let's reduce body fat percentage as much as possible. All right, boom. Now we go through a reverse diet again. I'm I just came up with that on the spot, so I'm definitely going to have to write that down and implement that into my business that I'm building out.
I'll listen back and do it for mine too. Yeah, me too. I'll just take that bit. But no, I agree. Like, I think there's all those elements, and there is something definitely positive around it when it gets people going, right? The main aim is, if that's the aim, is just getting people going and moving, then cool. And I think I did something at the start of this year in January, and it was just like a 4-week reset and refocus is what I called it. And
for
it wasn't
for your clients.
For my client, like I just gave it free for my clients and my ladies in the group. But it was basically just get the basics. So it wasn't any rocket science, and it wasn't like, all it was focus on sleep, nutrition. No one got given any calories or anything. It was sleep, nutrition, protein for all the ladies that were there, making sure I helped them calculate that. Then moving every day. And looking at mindset and habits, like create one new habit a week, like look at your bedtime routine, look at your morning routine. And it was literally that. And I was like, once you have that, you're going to start bulletproofing everything else, because now you know you can get the basics, and it teaches you the basics of it. So that's something that I did start working on, and I'm going to do variation, I think, of it in January, but maybe like a 6 weeks basis, but put like that inside of it as well. So it's kind of like a smaller version of what I would deliver in the 4 months, so you can get a taste of what it would be. But yeah, I think they all have their purpose, but it's, again, does the client know what that purpose is? You know?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do that, like you said, like if you're going to do a 4-week sprint, they understand why you're doing it. And then they understand why you're going back to maintenance of calories, so that you can not just go on that yo-yo up and down. You understand what it's doing to the body. Like, you can't just diet for your whole life. Do you know what I mean? So it's just giving them the education around it. And I think it's learning how to simplify it, right? And I think for me, it's definitely, I find it easier to make things simple for people, just to come on their level, you know? So
yeah. And
so, yeah.
I think this is going to tie in nicely with what my next question was going to be, because you're essentially giving them the knowledge and the information to then prioritize the big rocks, the things that are going to be most important for them, that's going to help them, move towards their goals long term and be sustainable. They're not looking for a diet. They're not looking for, a fat burner. They're not looking for the magic program. You get them focusing on the big fucking rocks: sleep, nutrition, hydration, stress management, right? Like, yeah, training is great. You need to train to, achieve performance goals, aesthetics goals, etc., body composition goals. You need nutrition to complement that. Okay, but if you're not taking care of those big rocks of sleep, hydration, hormones as well, stress management, like if you're not taking care of that stuff, it's like trying to drive a car with, 4 flat tires, no engine oil, timing belts off, blah, 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 and just putting your foot on the accelerator and trying to go as hard and as fast as you can. If you dial in those other things, you get the car, your body running optimally. Now when you put your foot on the accelerator and you go for that sprint, you're going to get to your destination. It might take you longer over the course of that journey, but you're in a much better place to be able to go for those sprints, put the foot on the accelerator when you want to, but then also go into cruise mode where you can relax your diet. You can, enjoy your life. And you don't have to be dialed in and restrictive with your diet, your nutrition all the time. You can go out for a pizza with your friends on a Wednesday night. You can go and watch a footy with your friends, have a couple of beers on a Saturday, or go for a few wines with the girls on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or something like that. Like, you want to be able to go through these phases of life where you're dialed in and you're going on a sprint, but then you ease off and you can go into cruise mode.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, right? Like, I had this conversation with one of my clients just yesterday, and she said to me, her friend had invited her out for drinks on the weekend, and she said no, because it wasn't serving her. She didn't want to be hungover, and she was like, who is this, Lizzie? I just had to tell you, because, oh my God, I just made this decision. And I was like, that's it. That's the magic. Like, if it's not something that's going to serve you right there and then, like birthdays, parties, brunches, whatever, it's all going to happen at some point, but it's just making sure you're choosing the ones that you want to be with, like not just saying yes for the sake of it. And And yeah, I think that you said it before, it's just living your life. Like for me, I feel like so many things out there now, even as a coach, like it's just becoming such an obsessive behavior around everything. And the biggest thing I'm craving in my life is getting out into the mountains and getting out into the wilderness and being connected to this incredible world rather than thinking about what my ass looks like. You know, like obviously it's great. Like I like to keep it that way, but like it's not the be all or end all for me. Like for me is we're on this planet for such a short time, and my ethos and my kind of philosophies are I'm not going to spend the rest of my life just worrying a slice of pizza if I don't have to, you know? And I think it's like, it's finding that balance, and it's again, getting into, it's just getting into kind of that headspace and being comfortable and being able to be in that headspace. And the way I call it is freedom. So you have freedom in mind, and you can move and dial in when you need to dial in, but you can also pull back when you pull back, and you know you can do it without giving any sort of place of judgment. And that's the biggest part, is remove the judgment and live your life as maximal as you can.
Now, tying into the values, everything you just said, building the foundation and having those fundamentals in place, we talked about why that's so extremely important. Now, you've got a lot on your plate at the moment. You're transitioning from, working face-to-face with clients. You're transitioning, you're building your online business. You're moving back home, spend time with family, to go to live that life to the max, as you say, to enjoy your freedoms. Now, because you've got so many things on your plate, what are you doing to prioritize where you're focusing your attention?
Yeah, so the big, obviously on the gym floor, I have to be 100% with my clients. So that's their number one. And the second element is my online. So the sole focus is getting everything online. So that takes the priority there. So if it means I have to take a couple of clients, transfer a couple of clients to another coach, then I will do that. So it's all about focusing where I'm going next. So that next part of the journey. So that's the biggest and the most fundamental part for me. But then two is, I mentioned just before the call, I'm very tired at the moment. I'm getting up very early and doing very long days, not only on the gym floor, but also onboarding and getting all my clients going, which is absolutely exciting. And it's the best feeling ever. And I have so much energy behind it. But like I said, for me, sleep is paramount. So it's making sure I'm getting to bed at 8:30, 9, which is so early, but I'm literally falling asleep reading my book. So it's like making sure I'm getting off my phone before bed, leaving it at the end of the bed, reading my book. I've neglected like my journaling and my meditation recently, so I know it's something I need to come back to because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a bit drained. So for me at the moment, it's making sure I've got those two priorities, like on the gym floor or online, but my health is at paramount. So I'm still making sure I'm getting my training sessions in, making sure I get my sleep, but also planning my week. So I'm knowing what my week looks like, when I'm going to get my sessions in for myself to train, to move and everything, but also making sure I've got enough food in the fridge, freezer, cupboards, know like when I need to make a shake or if I need to make a yogurt mix. I've literally got the same things. Like I'm a creature of habit. So I will have the same shake every day. I have the same breakfast every day. I have the same yogurt and fruit every day as my snack. But I just know I just need to pour and do this and this, and it's all there. And so when things get busy, I have everything in place, and I don't need to. Nothing really shifts. And if I don't have time to cook, or I don't want to eat what I've just made the other day, then I'll just I know where I need to order from. So it's like for me, it's like I've got the priorities in place, but the moment right now, like as it gets busy, is knowing who I need to say yes to, who I need to say no to. And that's a huge shift for me because I like everything that's sparkly. So anything that's like new and exciting, I'm like, get me involved. I want to do it. So it's like a case of like, don't burn out and like going out and like partying, getting drunk. Like we can't right now anyway, because the rules have changed. But like for me, it's staying at home on my Saturday night, chilling the hell out. And my Sundays are my no alarm days. That's my rule. I'm not allowed to set my alarm. I get up when I need to get up, even though that's probably I still wake up at 7, which is I just want to lie in. And just making sure I have, whilst all of this is all exciting, still have time to ground myself and be there for myself. So that's when the mindset coach comes in, so I can talk about everything and like address anything I need to address. But also just have quiet time. Like my housemate's out today, so it's like, for me, it's perfect, because for me to make any decision, I need to be with myself. Like, I can't afford the distractions from all the noise around other people. So for me, is having a lot of alone time before I leave Singapore. I think other people like the other way of like, I need to see all of you before I go and this, whereas I'm just like, I'll see you whenever. Like, it'll happen. If we're meant to reconnect, we'll connect. But for me right now, it's like the focus is the online and my health. Yeah,
that's a great point. I want to start wrapping up because I know you've got a busy day.
Yeah, that's okay.
What you just said, everything you just said then is really important for the audience to take in and appreciate, and then maybe draw some parallels into their own lives, because you know, you have so much stuff going on. You talk to me offline about all the things that you're not doing at the moment that you've had to put on the back burner, right?
Yes,
because
exactly.
Your number one priority is, you know, obviously with your clients, but then moving everything online. And you're literally in preparation for two and a half months' time. When you do leave Singapore, you do head back home. So everything you're doing now is planting those seeds for the future. You know, so not only are you planting the seeds for the future in 2.5 months' time and beyond, okay, but you're also prepping your week, knowing that you're going to be fucking busy. You're knowing that, you know, you're getting up early. You know when you're working with your clients, you know the sessions that you're getting paid for that you need to be at. You know when you have time to dedicate towards moving everything online. You're scheduling in ahead of time when you're going to be training. I'm sure you're scheduling in your mindset coaching. You're scheduling in. You're probably scheduling in like when you're going to eat. I've got 20 minutes here. I'm going to eat at this time, etc., etc. So you know you're preparing all your meals, and you said you're a creature of habit. You have the same shake. You have the same fruit at the same time. Blah 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 blah. Like that is extremely important because if you've set up that environment to not have to make decisions around what am I going to eat, when am I going to eat, I'm going to walk into the gym, what am I going to do today? No, you already have a plan in place ahead of time so that you don't have to use all of your energy and your willpower to make decisions, because we end up with decision fatigue. And when you've got a lot of decisions to make with your work, when you're moving everything online, you know, that takes a lot of energy. So if your energy is being dispersed with all of these other decisions throughout the day, then you're not going to have that energy to direct towards the things that are actually really important to you.
Yeah, and it's huge. Like, it's definitely like how you'd identify that then. It's like a day for me is I wake up at 5, I have a half an hour mindset call, I cycle to work, which luxury is like 6-minute cycle, depending if I beat the traffic lights. Get in, coach 6 till 10, have an hour break, I'll train in that hour. So before I even train, I'll have my shake within that 4-hour period just before I train, so I've got enough energy to train. Then I train, and then if I'm still hungry, I'll finish it 15 minutes early, go quickly, wolf down some eggs and toast, come back in, train and coach clients for another 3 to 4 hours, and then I'm home, but then I'm back onto online. So it's like, that's all that side of the business. So it's like, it's so regimented because it needs to be. And like you said, if I feel like I'm hungry, then I won't train that day if I'm feeling like I'm tired. But I know I can make up it on a Saturday. So I always leave like 1 or 2 days. So if I'm really not feeling it, I know I've got the Saturday or Sunday where I can pick it back up. And I think it's just so important. And my biggest thing is fueling. If I'm not eating enough, I will go sit on that sofa. And like, we all do it. Like, I definitely do it. And there's times I sit on the sofa and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, Lizzie, will you just get up and just work now? Come on. And it's like that whole conversation. And I'm like, some days I just leave it. Like, if I really can't do it, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just do admin. I'll just do all the stuff I've been meaning to do. So again, it's knowing yourself and also knowing, even as us as coaches, like, there's times where I don't make it work. And it's like, okay, well, it didn't work right then, but that's fine. Like, you needed that time out. You didn't need to train today, or you didn't need to do all those extra bits that you said you were going to do. Because again, sometimes I overreach and I don't do it. But I know I'll just have to come back to it the next day. So it's a constant learning curve, and it's never ending. And I think that's the thing. There's no finish line whatsoever, because things are changing all the time. And I've never known or been in an area where things have changed so much all the time. Do you know, like I'm on edge whether I'm going to be in the gym next week because of COVID restrictions. So I'm like, right, I've just got to get ready to go coach everyone out in the 32-degree heat in the middle of the sun. So like all of that's in my head. So I think, for the biggest takeaways is planning, getting ahead. And when you start falling into a routine, keep repeating that behavior. And especially if it works, and use that time when you do have the time to make it easier for yourself. Like I make 2 shakes, so I make it ready for a Monday and a Tuesday, so I don't have to make one every single night. I make it in advance, you know, and these are the simple things, but they're the things that will get you winning. And they really do. Like if I didn't have those, I'd be like, I wouldn't have enough energy to do anything.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That everything that we just spoke about then just reminds me of this one phrase that we used to say in the army all the time. And that was prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to finish up with?
I guess just like a message just to everyone who is sitting on the fence of making a decision no matter whatever it is in their life right now. Like obviously we've got so much going on, is stay true to who you are. Take and make that step for whatever you have been thinking of and been putting off for so long, and trust yourself. Like the main thing is I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't trust myself. And every single time I'm in doubt, I just have to know that I've got it and I'll make it work no matter what. So I think it is just step into that place of where it's uncomfortable, because every time I've stepped into that place, I've just flourished.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Something I want to add to that as well, which is a credit to you, is you've built that trust with yourself over long periods of time. You know, as you said at the start, you say you're going to do something and you fucking do it. Like that is how you build trust, is keeping small promises that you make to yourself and following through on things that you say you're going to do. Because we all know people who say they're going to do X, Y, Z, but then never follow through on any of them. And you know, when they say something, you're like, oh, you just pay it off. But then there's other people in your life that say they're going to do something, and you're like, and you're sitting there watching them, like waiting for it to happen. You're like, oh, yep, now they've pulled the trigger. Now they're doing that thing. You know, so that's a credit to you for, for trusting yourself, but also for building that trust within yourself.
Yeah, and just one thing to add on there. Have you ever read it's a really small book, but it's called The 4 Agreements, I think it is. And one of them is be impeccable with your word.
I read that recently.
Yeah, so good. I love it. Each one of them is like so true. And ever since I read it, the be impeccable with your word is something that I choose to live by all the time. Because if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Or obviously I have to learn at points, because sometimes I say yes, I'm going to go to all these things with people, and then I don't do it. But again, it takes time. But you've got to keep coming back to it and like stop agreeing to things if you're not going to do it.
Absolutely. I love it. Lizzie, really appreciate our conversations. Enjoy having you on the podcast.
Me
Always
too.
love catching up with you. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I'll have all of your links in the show notes. All the best. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Sean.
This episode was brought to you by Swiss 8, which is a proactive mental health program designed by veterans, initially for veterans, that has been pushed out to the wider community, that allows you to structure in and schedule their 8 pillars of health and wellness, including nutrition, sleep, time management, discipline, fitness, personal growth, mindfulness, and minimalism. This episode was also brought to you by Be Spunky, which is a male hormone optimization supplement that I've been taking for about 1.5 years, and I absolutely rate. It is a TGA listed nutraceutical, meaning that it's made from all organic produce to help you manage and optimize your stress levels, which in turn increases your ability to improve testosterone production levels naturally. Use the code COBES10 at checkout for your 10% discount. All of those links will be in the show notes. If you got some benefit from this episode, please make sure you pass it off to your friends and family. I'd appreciate any shares on social media platforms. If you tag me or if you share it to your stories, make sure you tag me so I can share that as well. Any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.